First, we have Mitchell Baker. She is the leader of the Mozilla project and is responsible for organizing and motivating a massive worldwide collective of employees and volunteers who are breathing new life into the internet with the Firefox web browser and other Mozilla products. She's been the general manager of the Mozilla project since 1999, helping shape the license under which Netscape source code was released. In 2003, she became president and founder of the Mozilla Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to openness and innovation on the internet. In 2005, Baker led the creation of Mozilla Corporation, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Mozilla Foundation. She served as CEO of the corporation until January of 2008, when Mozilla's rapid growth encouraged her to shift her focus back to the scope and mission of the project. As chairman of the Mozilla Foundation, Baker continues her commitment to open, innovative web and infinite possibilities it presents. Time magazine has profiled her as under her Scientists and Thinkers in 2005, Time 100. She's also appeared on The Charlie Rose Show and CNN Global Office. Since 2007, she's participated in the World Economic Forum as a panelist at the annual meeting at Davos. And in 2009, she was honored with the Anita Borg Award for Leadership. So we look forward to hearing about her latest project. Thanks for being here.
Well, it's great to be here. Can you hear me? It's great to be here. One of the things that Mozilla is starting to look into is this question of data and how does it affect our online experience. And so this conference came at a really perfect moment. What I want to do this morning is get concrete for a few minutes and walk through an experiment that we're conducting that is a little bit along the lines of what Sandy described. It is the question of, can we show some social value so that people are intentionally willing, if not eager, to share some of the data about their online life with us in a form in which we don't actually get personal data or keep personal data, and the person actually browsing the web and sending us their data knows exactly what's going on and can make their choices on an ongoing basis. And so in some ways, it's a very concrete and, in a sense, small project, in that we're not talking about the scope of health data or health care. We're talking about very discrete pieces of information. But we're hoping to use this as an experiment of the trade-off between, I can see there's some social benefit to this, I can see it might help me and others in the long run, I know what data about me is being transmitted, I can actually see it, and I can make a decision along the way. That's a little bit different than the phones that we heard about yesterday, where the phones are transmitting your location data whether or not you're asking them to, right? Just as a function of being on. We found that in the browser space, people are really concerned about that. So we're very interested in this experiment. As I say, it's really very tied into the Mozilla world right now and into Firefox, but as both an experiment and maybe a platform for doing things. And the context that this comes out of is, of course, we have Firefox. We're best known for Firefox. We also have started an effort to use many of the techniques we've learned at Mozilla through building and distributing the software in the innovation space to try and develop techniques for innovation and new ideas at scale. One of the things that makes Mozilla successful is the scale we work at, and of course the internet itself is really an instrument of scale. So is it possible to innovate at scale? Is it possible to have spontaneity and different ideas? Is it possible to use the techniques that we know something about a coordinated central framework and distributed participatory practices, in this case innovation? So this test pilot comes out of that part of our organization. It's an experiment. And that turns out to be important as we think about data. You know, the Mozilla community is a community that's extremely sensitive to privacy. The people who build the product, most of whom are not employees but are volunteers, and certainly the people who distribute it and the people who trust it are very privacy-centric. And the update of Firefox in Europe is much greater than in the United States, like 10 or 15 market points difference. So we'll have like 22, 23% market share in the United States. It's 40, 45, in some cases 50% in Europe. And the privacy concerns there, as we know, are much higher. So data is a very difficult topic for us. even trying to talk about it often gets us in trouble. Even raising the subject, particularly in Europe where there's the translation and language issues, it raises high levels of concern. So this actually was a risky project for us. When you look at it, it may seem very, very careful and concrete, but it was very risky. And so far, we're happy. We think all the privacy advocates, I see R is left, but that we've talked to are happy with it. The Mozilla community itself is happy with it. So that says a lot. So what I'm using here are the slides that the product team put together, because I don't want to develop a different set of slides for policy or data than we actually use as we go about our business. So this is one way of describing the test pilot mission. I would say it differently. What we are trying to do is build a distributed, decentralized usability lab for the internet. It turns out finding out how people use the internet is incredibly difficult. And it's hard enough to find out how people use software. And the traditional means is you gather 20 or 30 people in a usability lab, you set them down, you give them some tasks, you film them, whoever has enough confidentiality access can see the film, and you try and, from a small set of people, figure out how people use a piece of software. Same with the internet. But it's really hard. And so what we're trying to do with Test Pilot is build a distributed usability lab in which thousands of people voluntarily opt in, and we can find out exactly how people use the internet because they just go about their business. They're not sitting in some fake lab, but they go about their business, and the tracks or the traces of what they're doing become available to us. So there are some parallels to the physical world that we saw yesterday. And of course, in order to do that, both for Mozilla to be willing to do it and for Mozilla contributors to be willing to spend any time, let alone for people to trust us, the protection of data and privacy has to be really high. We also have an idea that the data that comes out of our work should be a shared public resource. And so we're trying to do that as well. This turned out to be a difficult topic in Europe. I could not articulate adequately what kinds of information Mozilla might have that would be anonymous enough to feel safe if we made it public for our European community to get comfortable. I spent some number of months at it. I was not able to do it. And so we stepped back and said, okay, if we can't describe it, we need to show it. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is to show the types of data where we can take the personal information out and make it feel safe and then make it public so everyone can use it. Mozilla itself is a nonprofit organization, and so the mission of trying to both make the internet better and empower more of us to understand it and do things with it, it should show up in everything we do, and that's why you see the mission first. And again, this is really how the product team would describe it, sort of very highly structured way to try and to gather data. So again, this is separate from Firefox. It's always important for us to say this. When you download and use Firefox, you're not participating in this. This means we have a couple problems. Of course, information bias and self-selection, and who's your sample turns out to be an issue in a case like this. And so that's something that we'll have to work our way through. But at least it's Mozilla. Other pieces of software do this. And if you put extensions or other software on your machine, they may well do this without your explicit consent to everything that happens. But we want explicit permission. We don't actually want an opt-in where you say once, oh, that website is useful, so I'll opt in to whatever they're going to do with my data. Or I think I trust Mozilla, I'll opt in, and it's once and forever, and that's all I know. So we want something much more explicit. Over time, maybe it won't be necessary, but certainly right now, and for what we're trying to do, we feel that it is necessary.